Man, NFL dirty. NFL said, we ain't going to have y'all clock watching because we know what y'all was going to be doing. Y'all was going to wait. If we put the Eagles at 1 o'clock, Cowboys, you guys watch it, and then you'll play accordingly. If we put the Cowboys at 1, Eagles, we already know what y'all was going to do, but the Eagles was going to have to play anyway because San Francisco theoretically can catch them, Skip. So if they lose this game, they're not worried about that. Yeah, you lose the division, but you lose the #1 seed also because San Francisco plays Arizona. I like their chances at home of beating Arizona.
I love their chances.
Okay, so with that being said, Skip, when we talked about this, what did I tell you when you played Jacksonville? I said, Skip, if you don't beat Jacksonville, it doesn't matter if you beat the Eagles because you've given up 3 games. Now, Eagles lost last week. Guess what, Skip? Y'all sitting pretty. You'd have been sitting pretty. Now you win this game, you got a division. Don't worry about what the Eagles do. But now you got to hope and pray and wish, and it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You're not getting a first-round bye. You should be. That's what you should want. You should want to be in that situation where you go to Tampa and deal with Tampa. And you sure you want Aaron Rodgers in the playoff after what that man has done to y'all? Not just in the playoff, but in the regular season. You should say, I want no parts of him. I want Tampa. And so I believe that is the matchup that's going to happen. I think we're going to talk about Green Bay. I like Green Bay's chances. At home, they're playing really well. They're running the football, but the defense over the last couple of weeks have played outstanding football. So with that being said, no, you're not going to win this game. Now, the question is, what do the Giants do? Because
that is the question.
I don't believe, Skip, they can improve their seeding.
They can't. They're locked. They're 6.
Okay.
It's done.
So what's the reward versus what's the risk? I get Saquon dinged. I get Daniel Jones dinged. Then guess what? You made the playoffs, but you're not going anywhere without those 2 guys. So that is the question that Brian Daboll has to ask himself. Risk versus reward.
Yep. Okay, I hear everything you just said, but I'm going to go back to your question that you posed in the midst of what you said.
Okay.
In a perfect world, if I had my druthers, I would take Aaron Rodgers at Jerry World over having to deal with the GOAT at Tampa. I just take it. I'll take Aaron at age 38 with his track record in the postseason, not against us, just in general, because he's 7-9 since that long ago, 12-year ago Super Bowl run. I'll take that over having to deal with Brady and a lesser team.
Right.
Aaron's got a better team than Brady does.
Right.
Like maybe a lot better team. But I dread having to face that guy in Tampa.
But you know, Skip, all you have to worry about is the passing. You got no running game.
Okay.
You only going to get like 50 yards.
Okay, I get all that. You know what? You can stat me to death. You can paper me to death.
Okay.
But they're not going to play on paper because I just watched the GOAT Carolina. I don't know what it is about him. He can sting it up for the whole year, and then all of a sudden he says, okay, it's time. Let's do this.
So in other words, you're going to say, look at one game and say, look what he did against Carolina and disregard the other 15.
It was just 432 yards.
Yeah.
It was his masterpiece. It was by far his best game of the year in the biggest game of the year because they had to win, albeit in the NFC going south.
Right.
But it was a hat and T-shirt game. Right. We're gonna talk about this in a moment,
okay.
But it was effectively maybe playing for a bye kind of a game because you wouldn't have to play against Atlanta.
Right.
And he just said, okay, watch this.
Right.
And Mike Evans came back from the quote-unquote dead.
Right.
It's like, what? There he is. He hadn't caught a touchdown pass for 11 games, and he catches 3.
Given that, considering Mike Evans hadn't caught a touchdown in 11 games, given that Tom Brady hadn't had but a couple of 300-yard games, so you saw enough in that game to say, you know what, it's fixed, they're ready.
I guess the answer to that is I've seen enough for 20 years. I just know what happens to him. He's psycho. He goes playoff psycho Tom.
But let me ask you a question. Okay. In any of those 20 years during the regular season, did they look like this?
No. I buy all that until Carolina. Yeah. And then Carolina was hot, man. They'd won 3 out of 4. They'd won 4 or 6. I couldn't even make a case on paper how they could beat Carolina.
Right.
But they beat them rather soundly, even though Sam Darnold threw for 341.
And plus the fact is that you got 4 turnovers, and it took 4 turnovers for you to get to 30.
Okay, I got it. And you were right. I'm still afraid of that guy in that moment in that stadium.
Had I not seen this year, I would agree with you.
All right, okay, I got it. But here's the point
that
renders all this moot is It's not going to happen. We're not going to get out from under it. We're not going to play Aaron Rodgers because it feels like a done deal.
Right.
But you mentioned the Eagles. Okay, you're right about Jacksonville. We mucked it up. Okay, we had them 27-10. We flexed our firepower.
Had Green Bay too.
We had them 28-14 going to the fourth. And we flexed our firepower. We lost in overtime both times.
Right.
And in both overtimes, we had a stretch where it looked like, oh, we got this.
Right.
No, we don't got this. Okay, so you say the Eagles game didn't matter. But what it mattered to me hugely was to our psyche, to our relaunch momentum, to our reborn confidence that we lost at Jacksonville.
Right.
All of a sudden, we got back on that proverbial horse in Dallas and we rode it.
But
right?
guess what? You didn't feel good about the win that you had in Tennessee.
Okay,
you came out here and gave a big old nothing.
All right. So I got it. They were highly unimpressive against Joshua Dobbs, the third-string quarterback. So now I'm fine with them playing their players. It's almost a good thing that they're forced to play their players. They're going to monitor. They're going to have somebody hawking the TV.
Yeah.
And as soon as Jalen and company, and I assume Jalen's going to play, but I don't know that for a dead solid fact. I'm talking about Jalen Hurts. But if they do what they should do against Giants, who I can't make any case for the Giants playing anybody. I just can't. It's why the odds makers are saying Philly is a 14-point favorite over an arch division rival that has given them fits before.
Well, it seems to me Vegas is believing that they're not going to play.
They're not going to play any players. Well, back to your point about the 6th seed, they're locked in. So they're going to get Minnesota at Minnesota. And I remind you, on Christmas Eve, Brian Daboll and company went up there and played the heck out of it. Remember, it went to the last drop. It took a 61-yard field goal by, what's his name, Greg Joseph. 61 yards to beat them 27-24.
The Giants came back because the Minnesota had the game in hand late in the fourth quarter. And then they mounted a comeback. So with that being said, Skip, I remember that very situation my last year in Denver. The last game of the season, we were already locked into the 5th seed, which means we were going to go on the road. And I think we were going to play Peyton. We're going to play Peyton after we had just beat them earlier. Probably like 3 weeks earlier, we had beat them there. So we were locked into the 5 seed. We were playing Green Bay the final game, and Mike took us all, and we didn't. None of the starters played. So I'm thinking, if I'm Brian Daboll, because the risk reward, okay, it would be nice, Skip. What are they? They 10-5-1, right?
The Giants
are 9-6-1. They might be 9-6.
Okay,
9-6-1.
Whatever. They're the 6th seed.
It would be nice to say, you know what, we won 10 games.
Okay.
But at what cost?
At too much cost.
Okay.
So I look at Daniel Jones' numbers at Minnesota on Christmas Eve, and he throws for 334.
Right.
I mean, he is coming of age. It took a long time for him to grow up, but he's becoming a legit quarterback.
Right.
And they're going to have to seriously consider paying him for the long term.
Is this his 5th-year option?
Yeah. Here we go. Okay. So the point is, I can't make any case for a miracle happening, and it would take a miracle at Philadelphia. But I will say this about the Eagles. They are reeling psychologically.
They are.
Because you can't get this deep into a season. You can't get this late in the game. And even though it was Gardner Minshew, who's not a terrible backup, he's an adequate backup quarterback who has won a bunch of games as a starting quarterback. And he played very well at Dallas, except you can't cough it up. It was 4, but 3 of them were his fault.
And then what did he do? He made the one crucial mistake to Marshawn.
Just one. That's all it took, and that ended that game. And one quick throw deep in your own territory. Okay, so it's Gardner Minshew. So I don't know what to say about Jalen Hurts. We know what happened at Chicago. He got fallen upon after he'd run the football, and he got back up and shook it off. Shoulder goes, AC joint. I don't know exactly what's going on, but Nick Sirianni was still, he even brought up DeMar about what had happened on Monday night in relation to Jalen, saying we got to be overprotective here of his long-term health. And so it was almost like suggesting we're not sure. He said, I don't have any medical clearance on him yet this week.
Yeah, because, Skip, you never really want to fall flush on the football. You always try to fall on the side, but you don't want to you'll hate when somebody falls to put their weight on you because you already fall on that shoulder and then crunch on top of it. So you get compounded. But you definitely don't want them to fall on top of you when you falling on top of the football.
You don't.
That's really how you can break something and do some serious damage.
So now you're in a weird desperation mode against a team that might not play any of its starters. but you've got to go take care of business, and
Right.
you need to put them away in the first half.
Yeah.
That's what you should do. I'm going to presume that Jalen Hurts will play football this Sunday.
Okay.
And I'm going to presume that they will put the Giants away fairly quickly, which would make me presume that if Dallas is closely monitoring, that as soon as that game gets out of hand, where it's got to be completely out of hand, that you don't have
So in
some
other words, you're
miracle-
looking to be playing. You're gonna play into the third quarter then.
Maybe, somewhere in that range.
Okay.
And that's okay with me. But as soon as that game is over, I'm talking about like effectively over.
Right.
As soon as it's 28-0 or 35-7 and you say, okay, enough, you should pull your starters because you got to give them some break.
Right.
Because to me, we're about to talk about it with the Brady situation. A bye is precious. It's why everybody wants the 1 seed. There's only one bye now, but
Well, the Giants can get a bye. They can rest their start. They can rest their
they've
starters
got
with
it
nothing to play for.
right in their lap.
They do.
But Jerry Jones is saying, look, Jerry's been doing. You can question his sort of football acumen, but he's been doing this for
Right.
so long that he knows that miracles do happen in this league
Oh, yeah.
on any given Sunday.
But what happened? Here's the thing. Now you know y'all how y'all are. The most Cowboy thing ever
Okay.
would be what? The Eagles lose, and then you turn around
That would
and
be it. That would be my worst nightmare. That would be Jerry's worst
Yeah,
nightmare.
exactly.
And yet, Washington is our arch rival. They're certainly capable. They're out,
Right.
but are just for fun, just for kicks.
And
to
it looks
beat us?
like they're leaning towards Taylor Heineke
Yeah,
starting
okay.
after what they saw with
Yep.
Carson Wentz. But Skip, in '97, we lost 3 or 4. We were reeling. We lost to Pittsburgh. Who did we lose? Kansas City beat us on a 54-yarder to take the division from us. And so we had to play the last game. We played the Chargers. We beat the brakes off of them. So we kind of got, because we were rolling, Skip. We were
Yep.
rolling. We felt really good.
Yep.
And then that last game gave us our confidence back. We went into the playoffs playing with a lot of confidence, and
Yep.
we had to go back to a lot of scenes of the crimes.
Yep.
We had to go back to Kansas City, who had just beaten us 3 weeks early to take the division. We had to go back to 303 River, Skip, and beat the Steelers, who had beat the brakes off us just 5 weeks earlier.
Yep.
So if you get if they can win this last game, I don't care if the Giants play. I don't care if they brought LT, whomever. If they can win this last game and win it in convincing fashion, now, okay, we're back. We're back in business.
Okay.
Jalen Hurts is going to feel good about himself. Skip, it's hard for me to believe that this man won't play. I thought he would play last week because of the way I saw him moving, but he took another week. I believe he plays.
Okay.
I'm saying there's an 85, 90% chance Jalen Hurts plays on Sunday.
I thought he was going to play against
I
Dallas.
did too.
No, Dallas.
No, I wasn't going to play against Dallas.
But Dallas, he made it clear to the media, I want to play,
Yeah.
and it was Sirianni, probably went above Sirianni
Right.
up to
Roseman and Jeffrey
Yeah,
Lurie.
yeah. No.
Right.
We can't risk further injury.
And now that I look back at it, and hindsight's a magnificent science, I can see why they didn't play him against New Orleans. They say if Gardner Minshew played against New Orleans like he played against Dallas, we're going to win this game going away. Unfortunately for them, he didn't look anything like he did in Dallas.
No, he did not. So in the end, it looks like it will play out that we're going to GOAT. And
Yep.
yet Jerry is clinging to that one little tiny ray of sunshine up there that the Giants, even if it's the backups, would get off hot and get a turnover and make it a crazy game all the way home.
But you don't want to be in a situation where
Yeah.
you make it a crazy. It's
Yeah.
late in the ball game, and it's still a ball game. Tyrod, if I'm not mistaken, I think Tyrod Taylor's their backup. He's a proven backup.
is.
He's won some games in this league.
He will compete,
Yeah.
and he will make correct
Yeah.
plays. He always makes correct
Took
plays.
Buffalo to the
me.
playoffs one year.
He did.
Oh, that was the year that Jacksonville almost got to the Super Bowl.
I like him.
Yeah.
I admire the way he competes and commands the
Yeah.
position. So he's credible.
Right.
But if your backups across the ball, it's just hard for him
Yeah.
to rise above
Yeah.
backup.
It's just hard, Skip, to play a game and come out unscathed.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to get nicked.
Okay.
And you just hope it's not a key contributor. Obviously, everybody is important, but there are greater importance on
Yeah.
some. I'm not trying to get Saquon. I'm not trying to get Daniel Jones nicked because it's not like Daniel Jones has the best offensive line. They don't have the Eagles up there. Now the
No.
Eagles got an issue with that right tackle.
They do
now.
now.
You see Cam Jordan. You see what Cam Jordan did, right? He had 5.5 sacks coming into that game. He
did.
left with 8.5. Now I don't know how many that is, but 5.5 to 8.5, something bad happened.
Okay. I believe the Giants won't play really much of anybody.
Okay.
I believe the Giants are poised and primed to go to Minnesota in
Like their chances with Minnesota.
I love their chances at Minnesota because they're going to feel real good about their chances because they just did. It was almost like what the Giants did against Brady back in 2007, where in that last regular season game, wasn't it 38-35?
Yeah, they played. Yeah, they
so they'll go up there with that kind of confidence against a team that can be real hot and real not.
Right. Yeah.
Real not.
Yeah.
And I believe it'll be real not in this game, and the Giants will have a rather miraculous rebirth under Brian Daboll with a playoff win.
The one thing we know about Cousins is that if you get to him early, you can have him late.
Oh, dude.
And what did Dallas do? Damn near the first play of the game, Michael Parsons sacked him, fumble, and the ball game was over. You look at what Green Bay did to him early, basically another 40-point shellacking, and the ball game was over. So that's what the Giants do. Can the Giants get to him, rattle him early, and take him out of this ball game for the entirety of the ball game?
You got it.
Thanks for watching, Undisputed fans. Subscribe here to get the very latest from Skip and Shannon. Plus, go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.